And welcome back, once again, adventurers, to Let's Play Chaos Child. In the last episode, well, Takuru and the others actually managed to get out of AH Tokyo General Hospital, along with Uki Yamazoe, the girl wearing spectacles, who just so happened to be one of the numerous test subjects and one of the only surviving test subjects of the cruel and unusual experiments being conducted in that subterranean laboratory. But yeah, we might have gotten the hell out of Dodge for the time being, but it's only going to be a matter of time before those responsible for said experiments are basically going to start knocking down our doors and pretty much ruining our super happy fun times, which is not what we want, but that's just the name of the game. But we also had, well, before I get to that, we actually managed to hide out at Mio Kunosato's apartment, and curiously, she has something that is something she really ought not to have, an object in the shape of a really gaudy sword. And speaking of swords, she seemed to actually know the intention of the experiment, trying to manifest an object or an artifact known as a D sword. But as I think I said in the previous episode, yeah, those shouldn't exist anymore. For those of you who followed my Chaos Head Let's Play, you'll understand what I'm talking about. But so the fact that Mio, of all people, possibly has one, unless it's an exquisitely crafted replica, is just unveiling another set of mysteries that have yet to be fully explained or resolved. But yeah, after a certain imagining by none other than Takuru, we're basically hiding out here, courtesy of Mio, back here at the sanctuary of Cafe LAX, and we're being treated by its guardian maiden here once again. Kunosato took me to Cafe LAX. I just finished recapping that. We were taken to a big table by the window. Come to think of it, I'd just been here a while ago. Yeah, when we were tailing Hinae Arimura. Last time it was listening in on the conversation between Hinae Arimura and Detective Takeshi Shinjo. While I was thinking about that, the person Kunosato called had walked into the cafe. They'd seemed upset.
Huh?
When I looked up and saw who was there, I gasped.
こんな時間によう来たの。ゆるりと過ごしてゆくがよい。
We're never going to learn your name, aren't we? Or are we, I should say. Well, I suppose fair's fair. I have to have at least one unsolved mystery in this entire ordeal. And
用が済んだらすぐに帰りますから。
speaking of Hinae Arimura, here she is.
遅かったな。私にだって準備くらいあるんです。
Yeah, she has to keep up appearances. Hinae Arimura. It was the girl I was just thinking about. I think it's safe to say that Mio anticipated this given the fact that she was the one who
あ
set
れ
it
ひ
up.
なちゃんだ。
Yeah, and she's involved in this, but then we already knew that.
どうも。これってどういうことっすかね、先輩方。
Hmm. We're not at Hikyo Academy now. I think it's safe to say I think it's safe to drop the act.
知らねえって。俺に聞かないでくれ。
And Shinji is still as lost as ever. True. What was she inviting Hinae here for? Have you really forgotten, Takuru? The fact that she's a part of this as well?
っていうか、久野里さん、便利に使って巻き込むのはやめてほしいって言いましたよね。
Yeah, it's that kind of arrangement, and I don't think Kunosato will acquiesce to acquiesce to Hanae's request.
互いに情報の提供をする。そういう約束だろ。
Yeah, this is a purely transactional arrangement.
そっちばっかり私を利用してるくせに。
いいから座れ。
Yeah, she uses people by giving information to get information. Harimoto sighed, glanced at us, and sat down with a frown on her face. It was an awkward moment after we ordered our drinks when no one spoke.
それで、何なんです？
I think it's time to get down to business. At last. Once our drinks arrived, Arimoto, of course, was the first one to speak up.
口で説明するよりも見せた方が早いと思ってな。
まさか話したんですか？
利用価値がありそうだと判断した。
Really?
ほんと勘弁してほしいんですけど。
Unfortunately, I think that's habit right about now. From the way they were talking, Arimoto must have known about these powers as well. And
つべこべ言わずに見せてやれ。
show them. Wait, she couldn't mean...
嫌ですよ、めんどくさい。
宮代拓が能力者かどうか確証を得たい。
いや、だからですね。僕はそんな。
Yeah, we're not a psychic per se. Psychics can read people's minds. Which isn't the
間
same.
違いなく能力者ですよ。
Or then I can just... Arimoto spoke as if it were the most normal thing in the world.
有村。おい、本当か宮代。
She's right about the powers part, most probably. The psychic part is still, jury's still out on that one.
信じられないよ。
Yeah, it is very hard to believe.
だから僕は知らないって。
ふん、なるほどね。知らないというのは本当みたいです。無自覚なんですね。
Yeah, that's why we've been investigating the case. To know things.
無自覚も何も。有村はなんでそんなこと言い切れるんだよ。
Well, considering the fact that she was the one that said you were going to be killed.
あれ、思い当たる節ありませんか？
そんなのあるわけ。
If I had that power, I would have used it for something.
でも自分がこうなってほしいと思ったところでいつも特別なことが起きたりしたでしょ？
That could be happenstance or coincidence.
例えば例のラブホテルに先輩が潜入した時、あの時部屋には確かに鍵がかかっていたんですよ。なのに先輩はどうやって入ってきたんです？
Yeah, that is the $1,000,000 question. We actually don't have any proof that Takuru was the one that opened the door. Could have been the people responsible.
嘘だ。鍵は開いてた。
Well, it was locked and then it wasn't.
いいえ、閉まってました。けどいきなり開いたんです。だよね、セリ。
She's correct on that.
う？
Serika hesitated for a moment and looked at me.
確かにガチャって。
尾上？
ほら、それが宮代先輩の能力です。
Again, you actually have no proof that he was the one that did it. Could have been the killer to mess with our heads. I'm just saying, we're not the only ones with powers. My power, which is not psychic, by the way. Telekinesis is not the same as psychic. It's not quite the same. Well, I suppose it is, but similar, but not the same. No way.
おそらく望んだように物体を動かす能力、いわゆるテレキネシス、あるいはサイコキネシスか、それを持っている。
Yeah, there is psychokinesis, but yeah, there is a difference between moving things with your mind and moving molecules of their own accord. I know it's
病院の地下
crazy,
施
but
設にあんな簡単に侵入できたのもそのおかげだ。
that could be true, but I'm still chalking up my someone else let us in theory to mess with our heads, to string us along for the ride.
本当かよ。
Ito was looking at me in shock.
いや、待ってくれ。違う。
Sure, when I got into the psych ward in the underground lab, a lot of coincidences had happened all at once. Doors that would normally be locked weren't. Yeah. When I got to the underground facility from the autopsy room, something had gotten stuck, and I'd been able to open the secret door. But
そんな特殊な能力なんて本当にあるわけ。
でもさ、宮代言ってたよな。今回の事件の鍵かもしれないって。
yeah, that he did, and that we did, punctured by our own logic.
それはそうだけど。
Sure, I've been saying it just a little while ago. But only after being told that I was a psychic did I understand. I hadn't actually really believed it. When I said it aloud, I acted like it was some brilliant theory, but in my mind I'd still been treating it as fiction. Very much like a certain Ace Attorney from another series. I mean, you know, right? How could I have something so crazy?
先輩、今から言う質問にすべていいえで答えてください。
That depends. This is probably gonna be one of those trick questions.
は？なんだよいきなり。
There has to be one trick question where no matter how hard you think about it, you can't answer.
いいから答えてください。いいですね。
あ、はい。
This isn't going to end well, Takuru. I nodded, since it didn't seem like I was going to be given a chance to disagree.
"自分のクラスの人間はバカばっかりだと思っている."
And there's Takuru, looking rather grim and gloomy. The answer to that question is actually no. He doesn't think everyone in our class is an idiot.
いいえ。
でも本当はその輪の中に入りたいと思っている。
Yeah, psychological shenanigans.
いいえ。
一人でカラオケに行ったことがある。
I see. See, I knew it. Trick. This is lies. This is an unfair. This is an unfair test. God damn it.
いいえ。
He's still gonna do it.
一人でカラオケに行ったけれど、一曲も歌ってはいない。
Yeah, we're asking questions. Or we're answering questions. Also, these are not questions. At least that one wasn't.
いいえ。
What is this in aid of?
クルス先輩と一緒に暮らしていた時、クルス先輩のお風呂を覗いちゃったことがある。
いいえ。
なるほど、わかりました。
Well, he answered them all with no. I wonder. Arimoto nodded and smiled.
わかったって何が？
まず最初の質問。宮代先輩はみんなバカばっかりだと思ってますね。
そんなことは。
それから次、そうは言っても本当は寂しくてみんなの輪の中に入りたいとそう思ってます。
違う。僕は何の生産性もない会話になんて。
カラオケに一人で行きましたね。
それは新聞部の取材で言っただけだ。でも歌っては。
それは嘘です。
え？
Is it?
本当は歌いました。
歌ってない。
一曲だけですか？
だから歌ってないってば。
なるほど。一曲だけ歌ったんですね。
おい、宮代、本当か？お前あれだけ歌ってないって否定してたよな。
Arimura, how do you know this stuff? Maybe because it had seemed like a waste, so I did sing one song. And maybe not singing probably would have drawn attention or whatever.
最後にお風呂でクルス先輩を。
もういい、やめろ。
タク。
Serika pushed down on a Gero Froggy strap. It made a noise like the you lose buzzer on a game show. Yeah, life is ruined. Goodbye, thank you, and Godspeed. Is this a TV variety show or something? Yeah, it pretty much feels like that. One word's rigged against you.
違うんだ。あれはユードがいたずらして、今なら誰も入ってないって言うからドアを開けたら、それに慌てて目をつぶったから何も見てない。本当だぞ。
Do you have any idea of what hell I went through after that? Just remembering it terrified me. Wait, no.
それが一体何だって言うんだ。
わかりませんか？今のが私の能力です。
Ah, so you're the psychic.
他人の口にした言葉が嘘か真実かわかる。それが私の能力なんです。
She could tell if someone was lying. And then I finally realized the way Arimura had acted and the things she'd said. Was that what that was about? Seems to be.
ホットリーディングやコールドリーディングって可能性もあるし。
Hate to break it to you, Takuru, but I don't think she's using a cheat sheet. A cheat sheet. Hot reading. A method primarily used by self-proclaimed psychics and spiritualists, where agents are used to learn about a target or subject in advance. The psychic then pretends the information was gained through clairvoyance or mind reading to make it seem as if they have special powers, as opposed to cold reading. A set of techniques that use the art of conversation, observation, and intuition to gain information about a target, and make them believe the user has spiritual or psychic powers. Since it has uses in counseling, therapy, police interrogations, and sales, unlike hot reading, it is not necessarily a form of fraud. Some people are incredibly intuitive, but it isn't mind reading. But we're not going to get lucky on this one, are we, Takuru?
ホットリーディング？
It has nothing to do with hot dogs, I assure you.
つまり事前に調査してって後で自分で調べろ。
ああ、もういい。面倒だ。
Mio's getting bored. Yeah. Kunosato looked annoyed and bored as she watched our conversation.
あれを見せてやれ。それが一番早い。
あれですか？こんなところで？
Yeah, it stands to reason that if Hinae Arimura has certain powers, then she also should be able to do a certain sleight of hand.
多分宮代以外には見えないはずだ。
Yeah. There's a reason for this, adventurers. Only Takuru, and possibly ourselves as well, will be able to see what Hinae
そうか
is
もしれません
capable of.
けど。
I'll explain why in a moment. Well, as soon as it happens. If this is the truth, which it probably is. Arimura looked toward the ground. Show me something. Wait, what was she going to show me? Give you a hint, we saw one in Mio's apartment. She nodded reluctantly, then suddenly stood up in front of me.
宮代先輩。
何？
よく見ててください。
Yeah, whatever you do, don't take your eyes off the birdie. And then she lifted up her skirt. Wait, what? No, that's not what happened. What are you going to show me? I almost asked, but then I stopped. Suddenly she stretched her right hand out to the side. She inhaled slowly, then seemed to draw something out of the air. And the surrounding area turns to bright light. As I sat there, astonished, she pulled something impossible out of empty air. It was warped, yet elegant. Ugly, yet fascinating. It was inorganic and organic at the same time. It was as if it contained every shape in the world. It was Oh yes, Takuru Miyashiro. It is...
Ken?
not just any sword, my friend, but a D-sword. A very unique object indeed. It is not a conventional sword, although it is blade-like in nature. That is not its true form or function. Basically, I know this information is about to be probably explained by Hinae and Mio, but I'm going to do it anyway, because it's that time. Basically, D-swords are a receptacle for certain individuals, the aforementioned gigalomaniacs, each of whom have certain unique quote-unquote powers. I say powers because these powers are pretty much manifestations of delusions, and these swords, as I said before, are a receptacle for, well, amplifying a gigalomaniac's power. But here's the rub, ladies and gentlemen. The phenomena responsible for the gigalomaniacs should have disappeared 6 years ago, when all was said and done, in the final aftermath of the Shibuya tragedy. So why does Hinae Arimura possess a D-sword, and more importantly, why does she have gigalomaniac powers? After all these years. Wasn't this the same thing Kunosato had at her apartment? Possibly, although each D-sword is unique to its gigalomaniac wielder. The shape was different, but it had the same terrible feeling to it. Yeah. A D-sword, in the abstract terms, is something that is drawn from the Dirac Sea, and I haven't really read up on the actual etymology of that concept. Basically, a D-sword, in fundamental terms, is an instrument of absolute negativity and dark matter. But Arimura had just pulled it out of thin air. Also, alluding to what Mio had said before about Takuru being the only one to see it, only gigalomaniacs can perceive D-swords. With one interesting exception is the fact that, as far as anyone is concerned, this sword is incorporeal. Until Hinae uses a unique gigalomaniac ability to manifest it in real time by a method known as real booting. Only when that happens can ordinary people see the D-sword, because what actually happens is she doesn't necessarily make the incorporeal corporeal as project the D-sword into the dead spots of any and all observers who are not gigalomaniacs. Confusing, I
どうや
know.
ったんだ
Yeah, or if you want the short-term delusionary magic trick, would probably suffice as an explanation. Arimura looked unhappy as she saw my shock. Yeah, this is the first time that Takuru Miyashiro has seen a D-sword being manifested from the void.
やっぱり見えるんですね。
And as Mio said, this was the fastest way to prove that Takuru Miyashiro does indeed have unique abilities. In other words, he is a potential gigalomaniac.
え、何の話？タク。
As for Serika and Shinji, however, they can't see the sword.
剣ってなんだよ。
見えないのか二人とも
In other words, Serika and Shinji are just ordinary people. Serika and Ito both shook their heads.
そんなバカな
It is an impossible delusion, but it is there. It was huge. How could they not see it? Because it simply isn't visible to them. I quickly looked around the room, but no one else, not even the customers or the employees, were looking at the thing in Arimura's hands. All they can see is her right fist clenched and her left hand open, and that's about it. In other words, no, they couldn't see it.
これで決まりだな。
Indeed it does. Also, when a D-sword is not real booted, it can't actually injure anyone. Once a D-sword is real booted, however, it is an instrument of terrible negative destruction and chaos.
どういうことなんですかこれ
今、有村ひなえが手にしているもの。それが能力者の証だ。ディソードと呼ばれている。
Psychic and Gigalomaniac are two entirely different things.
ディソード
I'd heard her use that word before. I didn't realize that she was talking about this, though. Ah, yes, the experiment. Trying to bring about the awakening of gigalomaniacs. An experiment that was being conducted in the General Hospital 6 years ago, during the New Generation Madness, I might add.
その状態のディソードは能力者にしか目視できない。つまりそれが見えるお前は間違いなく能力者ということだよ。
Kunosato's cold voice dropped even lower than usual.
でも僕、そんな能力なんて本当に使った覚えもないし。
でも事実だ。
Unfortunately, it is. Point conceded. I couldn't believe it. So much was going through my head that I couldn't think. I looked over at the D-sword again. Arimura fiddled with it and snorted.
まあ、同じギガロマニアックス同士、もう少し仲良くしときますかね、先輩。
One final thing to note about Gigalomaniacs and D-swords. It's not that easy for a Gigalomaniac to just simply manifest a D-sword out of thin air the first time around. It takes a lot of negative ability to even manifest a D-sword, which can appear as anything projected upon reality until it is drawn by its respective Gigalomaniac. So I wonder, what exactly is Hinae Arimura's negative wish? What did she wish for in order to manifest the sword, I wonder?
ギガロマニアックス。
I remembered Kunosato using that word before too. Time to shed more light on the situation.
我々は能力者のことをそう呼んでいる。ギガロマニアックスと。
Yeah. But here's the thing. You weren't the ones to come up with the phrase Gigalomaniac.
呼び方なんかどうでもいいです。それよりやっぱり信じられません。僕のサイコキネシスとかそんなの非科学的です。
ああ、サイコキネシスというのはお前がイメージしやすいようにそう言っただけだ。実際はもっと科学的な概念が存在する。
Is there?
科学的？
I looked at Arimura's sword skeptically. Scientific? That?
ああ、無理ですよ、久野里さん。説明とかしてもさっぱりわかんないと思います。ちなみに、私は一つも理解できてません。
Well, points for the self-depreciation at the end there, but you're right. Takuru isn't going to understand a word.
お前と一緒にすんな。僕はこれでも。
Not an argument when you can win at this point.
はいはい。
Damn it. She was pissing me off.
理解などしなくていい。ただ、最低限のことだけは覚えておけ。ギガロマニアックスの能力をカートゥーンに登場するような超能力と同じように使うな。そんな安易なものでも愉快なものでもない。
Yeah. There are certain drawbacks to the powers of a Gigalomaniac. Mio isn't kidding when she says it isn't simple and it isn't pleasant. But we get to learn about cartoons. Yay! Everyone loves cartoons, especially if your name is Maximilian Pegasus. A phrase used primarily to refer to TV animations that are shown in Europe and America. Cartoons consist mostly of simple good versus evil stories using characters from American comics, as well as humor programs targeted for younger audiences. In Japan, you can watch cartoons on a dedicated paid cable TV channel. They have cartoons in Japan? I'm kidding. I'm kidding. It's just yeah, the age-old argument of cartoon versus anime or Japanimation. Ah, those were the days. But yeah, um, Gigalomaniac powers are quite formidable, but there are certain drawbacks. The one that you need to understand is the fact that pretty much in most cases, and I say most very emphatically, you can't heal yourself um, with a Gigalomaniac power because of the negativity. Yeah, just take my word for it. You try to heal yourself using the power of a D-sword or Gigalomaniac power, it won't work. It cancels itself out.
何が違うって言うんです？
Well, that's actually the least of what will happen.
ギガロマニアックスの能力とは、簡単に言えば自らの妄想を現実に変換する力だ。
There was only one Gigalomaniac who was able to reboot delusions into reality. Only one such Gigalomaniac. Gigalomaniac who actually shares something in common with our main protagonist, Takuru Miyashiro. I'm
妄
surprised his
想
name
を
hasn't come
現
up
実
yet.
に変換？
But another thing to note is, yeah, don't think just because you're a Gigalomaniac means that you can survive getting hit by a rubber mallet or a giant piano, Looney Tunes style. You're in for a world of hurt if you really believe that nonsense. What was she talking about? That wasn't scientific at all. Yeah, delusions aren't scientific.
ディラックの海という言葉を、まあ、知らないだろうな。
Oh, and here I thought we were actually going to have the Dirac Sea as a handy dandy tip, but alas, no dice.
ディラックの海？
We will have an explanation though. It's a quantum, a quantum term, shall we say. Serika started to fidget on the sofa. Wonder if she's heard of it. She probably couldn't follow what we were talking about at all, but you could tell that I was nervous.
確か量子力学の中の概念ですよね。
Yeah, that's the short answer. The layman's answer.
ほう、驚いたな。一階の高校生が知っているとは。
Praise and sarcasm for knowing that much. For some reason, a lot of people on the Japanese internet loved relativity theory and quantum mechanics. Schrodinger's cat, for example, had been discussed so many times by now that it was considered an embarrassment to even bring it up. Yeah, we heard all about Schrodinger's cat back in ChäoS Head. That was a nightmare. So I knew a little, but not much.
真空を負のエネルギーに満たされた空間だと定義するんですよね。で、そこをディラックの海って呼ぶ。
Ah, so does know more than the average bear about the Dirac Sea. It is a void filled with negative matter.
ああ、そうだ。ディラックの海はマイナスエネルギーに満ちた世界ということになる。
Indeed, I think we earned ourselves a gold star there, Takuru. Just high praise from Mio. Kinosato looked at Arimoto's hands as she held the D-sword. And then Arimoto smiled, a little wickedly.
で、そのなんとかの海とこの剣を使って妄想を現実にできるんですよ。リアルブートっていうらしいですけどね。
It doesn't quite work that way, Hinae. Most gigalomaniacs can project delusions into the dead spots of other people, but they're not necessarily, that's not entirely quite like real booting.
リアルブート。
ディソードは剣の形をしているが、実はただの武器じゃない。ディラックの海に干渉し、現実との間のパイプとなる端末だ。
Yeah, basically Mio, refining everything that I've just explained.
ギガロマニアックスがその端末を用いるとは、本来、現実空間の中に存在できないはずの負のエネルギーを引き出すことができる。
Yeah, and there is a price to pay, as one certain gigalomaniac found out. But, yeah, there is the rub. Takuru doesn't have a D-sword of his own, at least, not yet.
すると、ホールセオリーによるペアクリエーションで、粒子と反粒子が生まれる。それがエラーとなって、他人の脳のデッドスポットに影響を与えるんだ。
Ah, we've heard the term errors before from another snarky high schooler by the name of Senna Aoi. Oh yeah, those were fun times. But yeah, this whole thing about particles and antiparticles, they're the reason why it's not a good idea to try and heal yourself using gigalomaniac powers, because it won't work.
脳のデッドスポット。
And the consequences of that again are terrifying. Arimoto seemed to only half understand the stuff herself, but I'm completely lost at this point.
デッドスポットというのは、人間の脳における視覚野の視覚だよ。
Yeah. Part of what was in that experiment that certain people were tinkering with.
そこに影響を与えられるということは、つまり、自分の妄想をそこへ送り込み、妄想通りのものを相手に見せられるということだ。
Indeed. And on that note, there was a certain man that attempted to create an artificial gigalomaniac. A very powerful device that could very well have altered reality as we know it. But that man is dead, and the device that he created is gone forever. Or so I believed.
しかも、
But maybe.
相手にとってそれは完全な現実として認識される。
Yeah, this is all too familiar territory for me, adventurers.
でも、そんなのただの幻覚じゃないですか。催眠術と同じですよ。
催眠術。そうか。じゃあその妄想を自分の周りの人間全員がリアルな現実だと共通認識してしまったらどうだ？
共通認識？
Yeah. Visual recognition.
そうだ。さらにそれが渋谷中の人間の共通認識になったら、そしてその共通認識が東京中の人間、日本中の人間、果ては世界中の人間にまで広がっていったとしたら、一体誰がそれを現実じゃないと否定できるんだ？
それは。
そうしたら妄想はすでに作り事でも幻覚でもなくなる。紛れもない現実と化すんだよ。だからそれはリアルブートと呼ばれている。
Yeah, although there is still the difference between something being actually real and something being recognized as real. But then, when you're in such a state, does the difference really matter?
そんなバカな。
Or is it a moot
だって
point?
そんなことで現実がねじ曲げられるなんて。
I rubbed my head with my fingers, trying to make some sense out of all this.
仮にいいですか？仮にですよ。僕がそのギガロマニアックスだったとして、だけど閉まってるドアの鍵を開けるとか、そんな風に妄想が物理現象にまで影響を与えるなんて不可能ですよ。
私たち含め研究者たちも当初はそう考え楽観視していた。だがそんな甘いものじゃなかったんだ。
え？
I'm actually wondering why you yourself are including yourself in the researchers.
物理現象すらねじ曲げるんだよ。ギガロマニアックスの妄想とそれによって共通認識化された現実は。
Yeah, that it is.
だからこそそれはこの上なく危険なんだ。
I looked at Arimura's sword, then back at Kunosato. I think we're finally shedding some light on Mio's grudge. She really doesn't like gigolomaniacs. Arimura was still smiling as she held the sword in front of me. Just more than a little creepy. I couldn't tell if the light it gave off was holy or evil, but for a moment it was so beautiful that I shivered. Beauty itself is often described as a delusion, but I digress. October 11th, 2015, Sunday. It is nighttime. The heart of Shibuya. But I believe that is where this episode is going to meet its end, and when we return, adventurers, we shall see what else is going to unfold on this beautifully ominous night. As always, adventurers, until next we meet.